guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 1, Chapter 10.1 Notes. Today we're talking about solving quadratic equations by factoring. Our learning target today is to be able to solve quadratic equations by factoring. So, there are actually three methods of solving a quadratic equation. You're like, well, Mr. Grice, what are those? Here they are. Are you ready to copy down the definitions? So, there are the definitions. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is solving by factoring. Now, this method can be used when the equation has a quadratic and a linear term. Now, just to remember the terms for a quadratic, it has to have a square on it. If something is linear, the exponent is just a 1. Okay, that's a review. You guys should be remembering that. Okay, so a quadratic and a linear term, and it can be factored. Okay, so and we're going to factor it either by a GCF or splitting the middle term. Now, the other way is solving by using the inverse operations. Okay, remember the inverse operation, STADMAP. Okay, it can only be used if the equation has no linear term and it can't be factored. And now there's actually a third way to do it. Third way, you're actually going to learn this later. It's called the quadratic formula. And this method can be used to solve any quadratic equation, no matter what. You can always do it, even if it can't be factored. And we're going to learn about that later. But the key thing is we're going to be looking at some of these problems, and we're going to figure out which one of those three is the best way to solve a problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. The graph of a quadratic equation is a U-shape, okay? And it has a special name to it. That is called a parabola. The solutions of a quadratic equation are the x-intercepts, okay? Now, remember, the x-intercepts are on the x-axis, and that's the horizontal line, okay? So this is the x. I'm looking to see where did they cross, okay? So my solutions for this one, where they crossed, x equals -5, because that's -5 right there, and right there is 2. So we can write our answers as x equals -5 and -2, and the other way that you are going to be writing it is the actual intercepts. So x equals -5, 0, and 2, 0. Okay. Now for this one, we only have one solution. X equals -4, and that would be -4, 0. Now, what about our third one? Does it cross the x-axis? Last time I checked, it doesn't. So the answer to this is not just no, it's no real solution. And I know you guys are super duper lazy. You can write NRS if you want to. So, and it has no x-intercepts. Now the reason why it's no real solution, it does actually have a solution, but we will not be talking about the imaginary numbers in this class. You'll learn that in advanced algebra. So it's something to look forward to. All right, let's take a look at the directions. It says solve the following quadratic equations by factoring, if possible. Write solutions as x-intercepts. Also, if they quadratic equation cannot be factored, identify which method or methods can be used to solve it. So we got a lot of stuff to do. Let's look at number 1. Let's name this. What is it? Monomial, binomial, trinomial? Well, first off, it's a binomial. So we know that, and it's a quadratic binomial. Can we take out a GCF? So no GCF. Can we do the difference of two squares? Nope, so we can't do the difference of two squares. Let's see. Well, we gotta use this up here. So it's a linear, there's no linear term. It can't be factored. So the two things the way that we can solve this, okay, we can solve it by the quadratic formula, because everything we can solve by the quadratic formula, and we can actually do inverse operations. Okay, and that's all we're going to get to on that one. Okay, the nice thing that we were able to do that was because we already had 0 right there. But now let's look at 2 and draw our little line down here. Now, we don't have a 0 right now, so we want to get everything to one side. So x squared plus 3x equals 40. Well, now we got to get that 40 to the other side. So now we have x squared plus 3x up minus 40 equals 0. So we know that a is 1, b is 3, and c is negative 40. So I think we can solve this by splitting the middle term. But we need to know the factors of 40. Just a nice little review. 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 4 and 10, 5 and 8. And remember, we find that by looking at our multiplication table. So which numbers multiply to get to negative 40, but add up to get to 3? I'll let you think about that for a second. Okay. Five and 8, and the 5 has to be negative. And then it works in each one of those scenarios. We're just going to move this over just a little bit. Okay. So we're going to split the middle term. And that goes to x squared up minus 5x plus 8x minus 40 equals 0. You can pull out an x from here. You can pull out an 8 from here. And remember, right here, this is your checkpoint to see if you get the same thing. And we did, so we're good. So this goes to x plus 8, x minus 5, and don't forget to equal 0. Okay? Because we're not done yet. Okay? I want to know what the intercepts are. So that's where we set each one of these equal to 0. And we get x equals negative 8 and positive 5. So our intercepts, which is what we're actually looking for, is negative 8, 0 and 5, 0. let's take a look at 3. Now, we need to get all of our information on one side. So minus 6x, minus 6x. I'm actually going to do these two at the same time. And you get x squared minus 14x minus 48 equals 0. Okay? So we know that a is 1, b is negative 14, and c is negative 48. So the factors of 48, 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, 4 and 12, no 5, 6 and 8. So out of those numbers, which ones add up to get to negative 14, but multiply to get to negative 48? Can you think of anything? And at this point right here, you can be like, oh, Mr. Grice, this can't be factored. Okay, well, if it can't be factored, which can we use? Okay, we can't take out a GCF. We can't do splitting the middle term. It's got a linear. So the only way that we can use this is we can solve by the quadratic formula. Okay? All right. Now, on the back, we're doing the exact same thing. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so we can focus on number 4. So, first thing I want you to do is pause the video, get the x, all the information on one side, and let's see what you get. Okay, so you should have gotten 2x squared plus 8x plus 6 equals 0. And now when we solve this, the first thing we always ask is there GCF? And there is. We can take out a 2, and the 2 comes outside. And then we're left with x squared plus 4x plus 3 equals 0. So a equals 1, b equals 4, and c equals 3. So the factors of 3 are just 1 and 3. So out of those, which numbers add up to 4 and multiply to 3? Hopefully you're not thinking too hard on this one. It's just 1 and 3. So when you split the term, x squared plus 1x plus 3x plus 3, take out an x, you can take out a 3, x plus 1, we took out a 3, and we're happy because both of these guys match up. So we got x plus 3, x plus 1. I'm going to bring that 2 down to the very end. And now we want to know what the intercepts are. So we're going to solve it by setting each one of these that has an x equal to 0. And when we do that, we get x equals negative 3 and negative 1. And when we write those as intercepts, we get negative 3, 0 and negative 1, 0. Okay? Alrighty, let's move on to number 5. Once again, the first part I'm going to leave all up to you, so go ahead and pause the video and see how you do. Okay, so that's what you should have gotten. Now, it's a binomial, and we can do the difference of 2 squares, but before we do that, we can also take out a GCF. So I'm going to take out the GCF first, and we're left with x squared minus 4 equals 0. And now that middle is the difference of two squares, so we can square root both of those. The 4 comes out front. Remember that one's a positive and one's a negative, and they're both 2. Set each one of those equal to 0, and we get x equals negative 2 and positive 2. And now the last thing to do is to write them as intercepts, negative 2, 0, and 2, 0. Okay. All right. Did I circle my answers over here? No. All right. Number 6, I want you guys to do this all on your own. So go ahead and pause the video, and good luck. Okay, there's the first step. Now, you can take out a GCF, so try taking out the GCF and then solving. Pause that video again. Okay, and there's your final answer. So I took out the GCF of the 8x. The 8x comes out here, and we're left with x minus 2. Everything with an x you need to set equal to 0. Those are your two answers. And then I wrote them as intercepts. Okay. Let's go ahead and work on the next one. We're going to add 8 to both sides and add the x to both sides. Those guys cancel, and when we do that, we get 3x squared plus 5x plus 8 equals 0. So we know that a equals 3, b equals 5, and c equals 8. So we got the factors of 24, which are 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. So which set of numbers are going to go in there? Well, let's see. We can do 3 and 8, but that'd be negative, so... Aww. So this actually can't be factored, okay? So what would we use to solve it? Well, we'd use the quadratic formula. Okay, and that's where we're looking at the front page, okay? Because it can't be factored, we can't take out a GCF, we can't split the middle term, that's what we were just checking. So we'd have to use the quadratic formula to solve that. All right. Number 8, go ahead and pause the video and work it out. I'll do the first couple steps with you. So let's see, minus x plus 2 minus x plus 2. So 7x squared minus 9x plus 2 equals 0. Is there a GCF? There isn't. So we need to write down factors of 14, which are 1 and 14, 2 and 7, and which numbers add up to get to negative 9, but when you multiply, they get to negative or positive 14. Now, I'm going to stop here and you guys do this, okay? It can be factored, so just so it can't be factored, it works, okay? Go ahead and prove it. Okay, and there's all of the work. Should have got negative 2 and 7, and we're writing our intercepts 2 over 7, 0, and 1, 0. Remember, it's okay to have fractions. That's fine. Okay, don't be scared about that. All right, number 9, you're all on your own. Go ahead and pause the video and work it out. Okay, when you're done, you should get -6, 0, and 1/2, 0 as your final answers. This can be factored, and you can get an answer to this, okay? So you should not be writing can't be factored, I'm lazy. All right, so if you have any questions on that last one, please come see Ms. Carranza or myself. We would love to help you out. Otherwise, that's it for Algebra 1, Chapter 10.1 notes. Thanks for watching.